And something that I actually learned from Leila Hormozi was your emergency is not my responsibility. Don't hire off of potential, hire off of demand. Things might go wrong and you don't want to be in a place where you have to let people go because you don't have the payroll to support having those people on board anymore.
Welcome, everybody, to this episode of Unconventional Materials. Joining us today is Maggie Owen, the VP of Operations at Gym Launch, gymowners.com, Prestige Labs. Maggie, did I miss one?
Nope, just the three.
Just the three. Okay.
Yeah.
Joining us again from St. Augustine, Florida, Maggie Owen, of course, the wife of Cale Owen, who was on our show about a year and a half ago or so. Maggie, super excited to have you talk all things back-end operations. What's going on?
Yeah, very excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Maggie, obviously, I want to, kind of get into the weeds as it relates to what running a massive service-based business like yours looks like, and kind of get to know your lens and how it is that you create systems and processes for employees and things of that sort. But I guess before we get into things, tell us a little bit about yourself to the audience. How did you get your start into where it is that you are today as a VP of Ops?
Yeah, great question. So in school, so I went to college for sport management, and I actually really had no idea what I wanted to do. I just, in high school, played sports and I wanted to do something in that industry. I didn't really know what that looked like. But I knew I'm from upstate New York originally, and I did not want to stay in the cold and the snow. So I picked a Florida school, and sport management sounded very intriguing. And so I started, my degree there in St. Augustine, Florida. And as I got started, it was really cool. And I learned a lot about the sport industry. It is basically like the degree is basically a business management degree, but tailored to sports, the sport industry, and all things sports, like nonprofit, professional, college. Like you can kind of take your pick, the areas you want to go into. And I went to Flagler College in St. Augustine, and the school is really great that each class that we had every semester, we were required to do some type of um, volunteering. And sometimes there was requirements around it. Sometimes there wasn't. Like sometimes it had to be sport related. Sometimes it didn't have to be sport related. And so I ended up volunteering for a lot of different things. But the things that I found like the most fascinating was event management in a sense. And I didn't really realize at the time I really had like an operational sense for things. I just kind of naturally like I loved the chaos of events and planning, and that could be races, golf tournaments. I volunteered for the AST do tour. I think that's what it's called. I don't even know. Not my cup of tea. Like not what I'm super interested in, but huge event. And I used to get we would go to events early on. Kale and I would go to events. I'd always be just fascinated by these large scale events, like how they're put on, bringing all the people together and vendors. And I just thought it was really cool. Well, I quickly found out that the sport industry, you pretty much make no money at all. And again, I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I wanted to make I didn't want to make, $50,000 a year. I knew I wanted to make more than that. And I didn't see a path for that in the sport industry unless you got really high up into like the VP level. And even then that you're like, you're slaving away for your entire career,
Right.
to like maybe hopefully have a shot at that down the road. And so I kind of fell off from that a little bit. And basically from there, I had met Kale, my junior year of college. And he was kind of trying to figure out what he wanted to do too. He had just been released from baseball. And so he was trying to figure out what he wanted to do. And he was opening up a gym with his buddy. And at the time, I just started I started doing CrossFit, and I kind of really liked that. And so I became a CrossFit coach for a local gym here in St. Augustine. And I really loved that. And then again, I had met Kale, and he was opening up a gym over in Tampa. And so we decided, well, cool, we're going to get married, and yeah, let's open up a gym. And so we decided we opened up our own gym. And like most gym owners that we work with, they have the thought of fitness changed my life. I love fitness. And if I just open up a gym, everyone's going to come to my gym, because who wouldn't love fitness as much as I love fitness?
Right.
And so we opened our doors, and for 3 years we like really struggled. And so I had just graduated college. I was bartending on the side, serving, like basically doing whatever it could just to keep us afloat while Kale was trying to grow and scale this gym. And so we were about probably 3 months away from closing our doors, because we hadn't really figured it out yet. And then Kale saw an ad from a super crazy guy on the internet, which is Hormozi, for those in the audience who might know. And so he was advertising scaling your brick and mortar gym. And Kale's like, well, I own a brick and mortar gym, so I want to grow and scale my business. And so at that point, we signed up in April 2017. And basically from there, we went from making $3,000 a month to within 6 months, we were making $45,000 a month, which was a huge transition. And I was able to take a step away from bartending and serving. That was like our first goal of like, I don't want to bartend. I don't want to be a bartender forever. Like, that's not why I went to school.
Yeah.
And so we were able, that was like first step. I was able to come into the gym. And Kale's good at everything, but he's very good, obviously, at the sales and marketing. And so we tag team. He did all sales and marketing. I did everything else. I did fulfillment, coaching, ran the coaching team, hiring, admin, customer service, like just all things that didn't relate to sales and marketing. I just assumed that. And I very quickly realized that the operational brain that I really loved kind of translated into that skill set that I didn't even really realize I liked or had. I just realized it kind of like everything kind of came together. It's like from sale through fulfillment and like upsells and ascensions, and then growing and scaling teams, obviously going from $3,000 a month to $45,000 a month. You need people, you need employees. I think we had like two part-time coaches, like me and Kale, and two part-time coaches. And by the time we sold our business, I think we had a team of like 10 coaches, an office manager, some part-time coaches, but a much bigger team than obviously, me and Kale and two part-time people. And so, so we used Gym Launch. And then basically from there, we decided Kale actually had a 9 to 5 because he was also trying to make ends meet. So I was bartending and serving. He went and got a 9 to 5. We're like, let's try to make this gym thing work. And then obviously we took off with Gym Launch, but there was a sales opportunity at Gym Launch that opened up. And Kale applied to that, and he came in as a business consultant originally, to start in the company. And then probably like 4 or 5 months later, they were getting ready to launch Prestige Labs, which is the supplement company. And Alex and Leila had reached out to Kale and said, Maggie, we think Maggie would be a really good fit for this. And that same exact time, one of our coaches approached us about buying our gym from us. So the timing was just really great. And so I took a role as actually not even anything in operations. I took a role as a director of customer success on the Prestige Lab side. So I started in on Prestige Labs, and then my career kind of evolved from there.
Wow. No, that's a heck of a journey. And I think I heard somewhere that throughout that process, you were also pregnant in between too, right?
Yes. Yeah. So when we first opened the gym, we had a 1-year-old, and so very small. So I bartended the entire time I was pregnant with her. And so
Wow.
I didn't want to keep doing that with our second. And so we actually signed up with Gym Launch and found out we were pregnant, like all within the same time frame with our
Right.
second. And so it actually was it kind of put our backs against the wall. Like, okay, we don't want to be in the same position we were with our first trial. We want to be in a much different position. And so we gave ourselves a deadline and a timeline and said, okay, by this date, we need a team, we need systems, we need processes. So that way we can take a couple, I think we probably only took a couple of days off, and then we're back in the gym, but better than no days off and then back back. But yeah, so I was pregnant through this whole process, and we had a small little one as well.
Wow. No, that's and to go from 3,000 to 45,000 a month, and then on top of that to have all of the coaches that you guys had on payroll, it's no small task. It's clearly a pretty decent operation. From that point though, I think that it sounds like, Kale obviously joined the team at Gym Launch, and were you kind of looking from the outside in, like, okay, what is this going to turn into something bigger, or did you kind of feel like, okay, I have the gym in the back pocket if we ever need to go back and do that?
No, so Kale and I are very big believers in just like burning the boats. Like if an
Right on.
opportunity comes up, we're going to go all in on it. And so actually I would say that mentality came with signing up with Gym Launch and like going all in. I don't want to say like we all obviously, like Kale's working 9 to 5. I was bartending. We were also trying to make the gym work.
Yeah.
But no, we went all in as soon as Kale got the job, and then so he got the job, and then I was running the gym fully. And then when this opportunity presented itself for us, and also our coach asked to buy the gym again, like the timing was just really great. We both went all in. So we sold the gym. I started in January 2018 on the Prestige Lab side, and we sold the gym in March 2018.
Right.
No, 2019. Sorry, 2019. Off
Right
the year
on.
there. The time's kind of blending all together, but yeah.
Right on.
Yeah,
All
no,
right.
we went all in. We're like, we're gonna make this work, and we also, the skill sets that we learned by joining Gym Launch and growing the business was, we knew that if for some reason it didn't work out, like we've acquired skills to go apply
Yeah.
this and do something else.
Love it. Love it. I hear a lot of resilience, obviously, in that. I think that honestly, my audience, who listens to this podcast and the ones who have watched the episode with Kale obviously have been fired up to talk about like all things related to sales, marketing, pick up the phone, dial the people, make sure you call them within 2 minutes, and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
Maggie, I've been spending a lot of time over this last, I would say over the last like year and a half, really focusing on the back end of my business personally and on the back end of a lot of different general contractors' businesses. And I'm finding that there's a lot of similarities, not just between general contractors and gym owners, but really just service-based businesses, period. And so I guess, given the fact that you came in as the director of customer success at Prestige Labs, what was like the first eye-opening moment where you realized, oh shoot, I can really make an impact here?
That's a really great question. I know some people have these like big like life defining moments sometimes and things, and I did not have that kind of advancing through my career. It was more so I always looked at it from a lens. I always came in as I'm always going to do what's best for the business, whether that's what's right for me in my specific role. I'm always going to do whatever is best for the business, and I'm here to serve the business. And so, for me, when I first came on board, I was tasked with. So we were preparing to launch Prestige Labs. We were in a beta stage. What was really cool about that is Kale and I actually were in the beta from a gym launch gym in our gym. And so we actually launched Prestige, as one of the very first like 10 clients in a beta stage, which was really fun. But I was tasked to come on board and they were going to scale mainstream and do a big launch. And so they wanted to scale up a support team. And so they wanted to hire 30 customer support reps. So I was tasked, that was my very first project. You're going to hire 30 reps. You need to train them. They need to be on board. We need to have, 5-minute response times, 3-minute response times, which was a really cool concept. And I would say this is probably a really big learning moment for all of us in the business at the time, was that the decision to hire all these people wasn't based off of current volume. It was based off of projected volume. And so we hired all of these people. I hired all of these people, and we didn't have the volume, or we didn't have the demand for all of these customer support reps. So I was having people, you had some people milking it who weren't doing anything. And then, obviously I realized that. But then I had other people that were like, I'm just gonna, basically they're like, we're gonna go ahead and resign because we're getting one chat a day at this point, and like, I'm just wasting your time. And like, this isn't fulfilling to me. So like, we had some pretty honest people that I was like, I really appreciate that. So essentially I scaled up this team to 30 people, and then I had to basically fire everyone but 5 people, which was a huge wake up call, because before in the gym I had not fired a single person. So I was like terrified of firing people, and so if we had to let someone go, I made Kale do it, which is terrible. That's like you should not run a business that way. But at the time, I didn't have the courage to do that, and so it was really eye opening for me. It was like a very huge learning moment for me. Of one, don't hire off of potential, hire off for demand. That you have in your business, because things might go wrong and you don't want to be in a place where you have to let people go because you don't have the payroll to support having those people on board anymore. But from there, really, it was like I always wanted to serve the customer the best I knew how. And same thing in the gym. Like I'm always like, okay, I'm always customer first. Because if we put the customer first, the business is always going to succeed, especially if you have a product that they like. Obviously, if you don't have a product that somebody likes, then that doesn't really matter. But as long as you have a good product, a good service, if you put the customer first and like really be customer centric, a lot of the other stuff will work itself out. And so I've always thought through the frame of how can I serve the customer better? And that turned into, I need to know everything about the business, because how can I serve the customer the best I know how if I don't know how the sales process works or the marketing funnel works? And how can I know that if I don't know what like the fulfillment on the back end works? If I'm just doing support, but I don't know the rest of the business, it makes it really difficult to be proactive when a customer reaches out. And so that was the first kind of taste I had of learning operations without it actually being said like, okay, you're doing operations. It was just, I want to learn everything I can about the entire business, so I know how everything relates. And if I need to reach out to a different department, I know who runs that department. I know what they do. I know how the financials work, so I can help make better decisions there. And so that was kind of like my first intro to, okay, if I know everything about the customer so I can serve the customer better, I'm naturally just kind of falling into operations, because to know
Yeah,
everything about the business, you have to be able to put all the pieces together.
that makes
Um,
total sense.
yeah. So it wasn't like a huge like defining aha moment. It was more so I always viewed my role as, okay, I want to provide exceptional customer support. Again, because I was on the Prestige Lab side just to start, and so it was like customer support was the main focus there. And then I really excelled in that role there. And at the time, Alex and Leila had another company called alllll, which was an automated lead nurture software platform. And so they were having some problems over there with the support structure, and they really liked what I had done on this side. And so then they asked me to come over and help on that side. And so then I went over and did that. And then we went through as we started going through the acquisition of selling Gym Launch. And at the time, it was just Gym Launch and Prestige. And now we have gymlaunch.com was the CRM. Then they asked me to also take over the Gym Launch side as well from a support structure. And then that just turned into like full operations for the whole company.
And at this point, how many clients were you guys serving between all the companies?
Yeah, all the companies, I want to say Gym Launch, Prestige is a little bit of an outlier because you could leave Gym Launch, but we do have people who still stay on with Prestige. So Prestige we usually average probably roughly like 1,000
Wow.
active affiliates ish. And then Gym Launch at this time we were probably like 600 or 700 clients at the time.
Wow. Okay, so that's no small operation. It's like it's
Yeah.
serious, right? Like you're probably getting support requests, multiple support requests, I don't know, probably like 10 at least within a 2 hour period, right? And so given the fact that there's a lot of operational complexity, I gotta ask you, somebody who's like an architect for all things, systems and processes, how do you, if you first see a problem within your business or on the fulfillment side specifically of the business, Maggie, where do you even start? Because like personally, I'm the type of guy like I love sales and marketing, right? And so I think through problems, and I like to overcomplicate them and not really focused on MVP and just kind of try and put Miro boards and lucid charts together, and then I just get burnt out, and I'm like, you know what, I'll do it for another day. So how do you think through some of these problems?
Yeah, that's a really great question. I think a saying that I always try to keep with me, there's a couple of different sayings that I always try to keep top of mind. But one of them is a perfect plan executed now, or not a perfect plan executed now is better than a perfect plan executed later,
Mm,
right? And so if you just get started and get feedback, your customers are going to tell you what you can improve upon. And so you just have to get started and just do it. And then take that feedback and iterate and then make changes really fast, right? And so take that feedback and make a lot of changes. With that though, the other piece is sometimes if you have problems that come in, so that's like more from a proactive standpoint of like just start, just do the thing and then take the feedback and then make changes. But when you've already started the thing and problems start coming in, and this is something that took me a little while to learn over time because the role that I started sitting in, overseeing operations for all of the companies, is I would just get bombarded with problems all day. And so I became just like a firefighter all day of just problem, 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 problem. And when I was overseeing all three companies, it's like problem in all three of the companies. And then I have to prioritize, well, which one's most important to the business right now. And so that's what the kind of second framework I use is when a problem comes in, I'm like, okay, well, first step, is this a problem to be solved or a problem to be managed? And sometimes it's not always a problem to solve right now. It might just be a problem that you have to manage and just set expectations with the team or with yourself if the team's not very big. This isn't a problem that I need to solve right this second. And an example of that actually, we have quarterly in-person strategic meetings with our leadership team. We're a fully remote company, so every once a quarter we try to get our whole leadership team together. And we send out these surveys. There's like a lot of prep that goes into this, and we send out surveys to them and to our employees. And at this point, we have roughly 75 employees, and so we send out surveys to figure out like basically a SWOT analysis of like what are we missing, what should we be doing better, what are we doing really great at, and over and over and over again, communication always comes up. It's like the theme every single time, communication. And every quarter for probably like 5 straight quarters, we're like, how do we solve communication? How do we solve it? We're like, we're emailing, we're using Slack, it's like, do we get a wiki? It's like we're trying all these things, and it's just like, but every single quarter, communication is still on this list. And so for somebody who like sets out to like solve this problem, I'm like, man, this is really frustrating that this is just coming up over and over and over again. And then it just kind of like clicked and realized, okay, this is always going to come up because people like to communicate different ways and in different formats. And so this is just a problem that we have to manage, and it's probably not something you're ever going to solve completely 100% that's going to go away.
that's
Um,
huge. That's really
yeah.
big. Like I've never even thought of it from that frame, manage versus solve.
Yeah.
That's huge.
So that's usually the first thing, like as it comes in, I'm like, okay, is it a problem that has to be managed or solved? The second thing I think of is like, okay, well, is this, if it does have to be solved, is it a house fire or is it a dumpster fire? Is the saying I use. So like, is it something that you can let sit for a little bit while you focus on other things in the business? And something that I actually learned from Leila Hormozi was your emergency is not my responsibility. Always, sometimes, you know what I mean? Like that's not always the case. Like if you have an emergency, it doesn't like automatically mean that I have the same emergency. So I might be working on other stuff for the business that are more important to the business. And so same thing, like dumpster fire, house fire. Is it like the whole thing's on fire? Is did the payment processing go down? Can customers stop paying us? Can they not sign their contracts? Is our marketing or their Facebook ad account get shut down? Like there are things that are definitely like stop everything I'm doing. We need to go focus on this problem. But other stuff is just it can wait. And then what I learned over time is that I would schedule times in my day, usually like an hour, and then sometimes the weeks just kind of get blown up. But usually there's like an hour in the day where I literally have set aside for dumpster fires because like things are going to pop up, and so I want to make sure I have planned in my day. Like this is time I set aside for like overflow of things that are just like have kind of blown up in the day, and that really helped too.
Is that
What was
kind of
that?
a daily thing that you set aside for?
Yeah. Yep,
Wow.
I put an hour block in my day, and I try to be religious about it. Sometimes it's not, and some days it's really great because nothing actually comes up, and then I can keep working. But I do proactively set it aside because usually things pop up.
Yeah, naturally.
Yeah.
Well, that's huge. I remember last year I had the opportunity to actually meet Leila in person at one of Acquisition's workshops, and I actually the question that I asked her was fulfillment and ops related, and it was just basically like, hey, how did you come up with version one of what Jim Launch's product is today? And she just answered me in like the most raw and honest way. She was like, honestly, I took a bunch of Adderall and I sat in front of the computer for like 48 hours straight and just cranked it out. And I think it was just a testament to the fact, to your point, Maggie, imperfect action is better than perfect inaction, right?
Yes.
And I think that that's how realistically, like that's how businesses get built. Some of the best businesses, because you also get the customer feedback on the other side of it. And so, given that, I am very curious because you have mentioned team members now on 4 or 5 separate occasions at this point. How do you think about building operations teams versus doing it all yourself? Because that is a pretty massive shift between the two.
Yeah. Really good question. I think, and what's very interesting is I think operations is very different for different businesses. I don't think operations is a one size fits all. And I don't know, there's probably experts out there that would tell me I'm wrong and debate this. I don't know. But for me, the way that I view operations is honestly, my job is to find, maybe not always find, sometimes I find the holes, but usually it's, I go wherever the biggest need in the business is. And so if there's a hole there, I will go there and I will figure out what the problem is and what's the best way to solve that problem. Sometimes that's a new process, sometimes that's a different resource, sometimes that's a new employee or a resource there, but it doesn't always mean that you need to hire someone. It could be an inefficiency in a process that you can change, could be something you actually could just stop doing. And it's like maybe you set a process 2 years ago and now it's outdated and it's like people are just doing it to do it. And it's like you could just stop doing that. And then you just save, you get extra time back. And so for me, throughout my career at least, I haven't viewed it as how can I build a team of operators, and I've looked at it as how do I build a team to support where the business is at right now, and that might look like hiring support reps. It might mean we need a new sales director. It might mean we need a new head of engineering on the gymowners.com side. It might mean we need a product owner. It might mean we need a support rep. And so for me, I've always tried to fill the gap of what does the business need right now, and then if it's a person, how do I hire the best person to get that job done? And so sometimes I've offloaded some of the operational pieces either to specific positions in the business or to some of like our back end people, like we have an IT operations manager, our HR director, our CFO, or our controller. Like sometimes there's some operational things there that I can give to other people that have more of like that back end strategic work in the background.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. And how much of your time are you spending on a day-to-day basis collaborating on like higher level strategic vision for where the business is going operationally?
Day to day, I would say very minimal. Actually, like almost none on a day-to-day basis. So we do it at a quarterly level and then a weekly level. So quarterly, we're always looking at, so we structure our business. I think there's a term for this. I don't even know what it is. So I should know this, but I don't. But essentially we do, our quarterly planning is we'll do DSOs, which are desired superior outcomes. So where do you want your business to be, in the next 3 to 5 years? What's the desired superior outcome? They could be goal based of like, I want 1,000 customers on this software by 2027, right? Like that is like a objective has an end actual goal. But sometimes it could just be like, I want to have world-class customer support. And you might not have like a specific measurable piece to that yet, but that's an objective that you want to go towards. And so you basically just brain dump everything that you really want out of your business for the next 3 to 5 years.
Yep.
And then we take that down one level and we go, what are our vital few objectives for the year? So these are 1 year, we call them VFOs. And so we do this at a portfolio level just because we have 3 companies and we do have an executive team, a C-suite team, but it is a little smaller. And so we don't do VFOs for each of the businesses. We do them for the whole portfolio. But we basically say, what are the vital few objectives that we're going to focus on this year? And then all of the decisions that we make for this entire year should drive back to those objectives. And those objectives should feed into you reaching your desired superior outcomes in the next 5 years.
Okay, so
And
you guys
then
reverse engineer it.
yeah, the whole thing. Real big on reverse engineering to success.
Love it.
And then you take it down one more level and we set quarterly MITs. So what are the most important tasks for the quarter that each business unit? So this one we do break out by business unit. What is each business unit? Gym Launch, Prestige, gymowners.com. What is each business unit's most important tasks for the quarter? And those are very measurable, very specific with an end date on them. And then from there, that's what we meet on a weekly basis as an executive team and our leadership team. So we say, where are we at to this goal? What bottleneck are you guys experiencing this week? What progress did we make towards it? Again, do we need resources? Are we missing something? Is it the wrong? Sometimes we set the right goal and the wrong execution strategy. And so sometimes halfway through the quarter, we're like, we've been trying. We're still not getting to where we want to go. And so now, okay, great. Right goal, wrong way. Sometimes it's the reverse way. Sometimes we have the right strategy, but it's not yielding the right result. And then it's like, okay, what it is driving this result to be better. And so then that is a good goal. And so, and actually a really great example of that is this last quarter, we set out to have a sole focus of speed to money for our clients, which is obviously a really great idea. And so having that time to value. And so I would encourage anyone, no matter what business you're in, one of the most important metrics to measure in your business is time to value for your clients. You want them to see value as fast as possible from whatever your service is. And so for us, we said, okay, well, when they make their very first sale from paid advertising, because most gyms come in and they need acquisition help first. That's not always the case, but most of the time they need us to help with their acquisition system first. So for us, 95% of the time, it's let's focus on your acquisition strategy. And so we said we want to increase or decrease the time to value. We want you to have your first sale within 14 days of coming on board with us. And to do that, we have to be able to take your ads live within the first 7 days with us. And so the ads team had a goal and the agency team had a goal and then, or the coaches had a goal. And the end outcome of that is we were hoping that was going to reduce churn within the first 90 days with us by getting them their ads live faster, getting them making money sooner. And we focused on that. We didn't hit we hit the ads once we got there. We could launch their ads really live, but we ended up averaging over what we wanted to average when they made their first sale.
Wow.
But it did decrease churn. And so our churn did go down, but the measure that we set, we didn't actually hit that, but it had the ultimate outcome of decreasing churn. So it's like, it was a good focus. It did work, but those specific metrics we didn't specifically hit. But that was the right focus and it did decrease churn.
That's massive. That's huge. I could see how, having like a laser focus like the one that you just described and, focusing specifically on time to value and then creating the execution plan, holding the people accountable to committing to those actions. I could see how it could make a huge impact on the business. Something that I actually didn't have the opportunity to share with Kale when he was on the show, primarily just because this conversation just happened maybe, 2 months ago. I had the opportunity to connect with one of Gym Launch's actual customers.
Love that.
Yeah, no, it was, to be honest, I was mind blown. And I don't remember exactly how it came up. I think you guys had reposted something on the gym launch Instagram story, and I had reached out to this gentleman that you guys had reposted, and I was like, "Hey, man, I'm curious to talk about like what specifically you find so awesome about working with this company." And him and I spoke on the phone, and I have like I mean I've worked at tons of companies and I've seen enthused customers before. This guy like would not stop talking about like the experience that he's had with gym launch, and he was like, man, like I know you're not a gym owner, but like you should consider becoming a gym owner just because of what it's like, wow, okay, so like what have they done right? And as we kind of got deeper into the conversation, he said something that stuck out to me, and it's basically that your team, Maggie, is so focused on solving every unique challenge and problem in a gym owner's life, in a gym owner's business, that you guys pretty much have laid out a complete and comprehensive playbook for them, that if this happens or when this happens, then do this, or then go to this person, or then, approach this challenge in this way. And so I was, inspired by that conversation because I was like, wow, like it sounds like service-based businesses, especially, virtual ones like Gym Launch, they can do things incredibly, incredibly well and almost give like a Disney-esque experience to people, right?
Yeah.
But I think that the bigger thing that I took away from it is how can, remodel contractors, general contractors give that same experience also to the homeowners that they serve. And so I want to ask you, because it's something that I like to ask every person who jumps on the show, given their expertise, I guess, and it doesn't have to be specific to contractors, but what is one really easy way that you can wow your customers in 2025?
Yeah, I love that question. And it's funny that you say that, like that Disney-esque experience. We actually had an employee that worked for us for a very long time that was from Disney.
Oh,
And
wow.
so her whole philosophy, she would keep on her desk this jar of glitter that one of her bosses gave her, and it was her reminder to leave a little like sparkle everywhere she went. And so that was just like her philosophy always, which I really, really loved. And so I'm gonna give you like this for if you have a team, a way to do it, and then like individual if you don't have a team, how to do that. But from your team perspective, we implemented something called a Wow initiative, basically, or a Wow program. And at first, to I'm gonna say force compliance, but like get compliance into this with the team, is we made it mandatory for anybody who had an interaction, anyone who has interactions with a customer. We gave them a budget, basically $25 to $50 per person, and they were required to send out some type of gift to those people each or to anybody each week. And so what that did was is that every interaction that they had, it made them kind of be on alert for those wow moments, for those
Yeah.
specific little moments that you could really enhance the customer experience. And so that could be maybe someone told you that they had a death in the family, and right, and so we send them flowers, or someone's in the hospital, we send them a DoorDash gift card to help get dinner, or someone's pet dies, and so we get them like a specific handmade gift with their pet on it. Just like little things that like really can make moments special, that you're not specifically, if you weren't paying attention to that interaction, you wouldn't have caught on to it. And so that's something that we installed quite a few years ago, that I've really helped and noticed, helps bring a little bit of extra, just like love and care and attention, that makes our customers feel like, wow, they listen to me when I reach out, they care about me, and they're here to support me.
And how has that impacted not just, I mean, one-on-one relationships between your, you know, your operations employees, client success employees, and things like that, but I guess like how has that impacted the culture, the customer culture at Gym Launch? Is it kind of like an infectious thing where, one person gets a gift and they're like, oh, I got this gift from Maggie too, or I got this gift from this person. How does that, how have you seen it impact the customers, I guess?
Yeah, I would say I haven't seen it. Maybe on rare occasions. There's not like usually a lot of overlap, because usually like once a customer picks up that interaction, and then obviously we have a documentation process, and it's like so and so sent this out, and so you're not
Yeah.
like sending out duplicate stuff or anything like that. But it is very, what I have seen is clients start to post about that, and so they'll drop into our, at the time we started this, we had Facebook, and so we would try to make it a competition to see how many support representatives or people that might not technically interact from a coaching perspective because it's very easy for coaches to get shout outs. It's like, hey, you helped me grow my business from here to there. You helped
Yeah.
me solve this problem. And so it became like a little competition of, okay, I'm going to I want a shout out in the Facebook group
Yeah.
for going above and beyond. And so, they would post their thank yous and their excitement on social media, which is also, it's good for the brand also. But yeah, usually it's more from a customer perspective of they're very excited, very thankful, and then they'll post at the time they post in Facebook. Now we use School, but they'll post in there and call their shout outs and say how great it is.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Love
Yeah.
it. Um,
I know, sorry, I meant to also say, I know you had also like from a service-based business, if you're like
yeah.
going into homes and that type of thing. We from that perspective, I think you could do the same thing, right? It's like adding little touches like that to the interactions that you have. It's like if you're going to someone's house to do a walkthrough, offer to bring them a coffee, or don't even offer, just bring them a coffee,
Yeah.
or bring them a little gift, or at this point, usually if you're working, I know we just not just it's been a year now. We ended up having to unintentionally remodel our entire house. We thought we were replacing the floors. It turned into like a full gut, had to gut the whole thing. And so we had to find a contractor, all stuff we weren't anticipating having to do. And it took roughly like 8 to 10 months. It was during COVID. So things were like,
Oh, wow.
couldn't get materials. It was really crazy. But every single time we met with them, they always tried to make the interaction special. They would try to like there's a coffee shop right across the street from us. So they try to take us for coffee first. They'd offer, and like at some point I had to be like, okay, let's get the work done. I understand this. I appreciate it. But they always try to look for ways to just make the interaction even more impactful because it can be really painful, like remodeling a house or building a house. And it's just like a lot of questions you have to answer and a lot of thinking. And sometimes I know some people really like that. For Kale and I, we do not like that. If I
Yeah.
could have paid someone to make all of my decisions, I would have done that. And so really anything you can do to just make it an enjoyable experience, I think it just puts that personal touch on it and it really creates a lasting relationship.
Yeah, that's massive, and I think that a lot of times, like contractors, from my experience, they almost dread having to meet with customers multiple times all throughout the project process because they're like, oh, they're indecisive, or they can't make quick decisions, and so on. I guess like what was from your perspective of remodeling your home? Is there one specific thing that you can think back to, or maybe two things of like, oh yeah, that process could have been improved without calling out the contractor, of course?
Yeah, no, we actually had a very, very great contractor. And so I would actually say if you could take anything from this learnings, they were phenomenal because they recognized that the process is overwhelming. Kale and I are both busy executives. We have two small kids. Like this is the last thing we want to do.
Mm,
And it wasn't like we voluntarily were like, let's remodel our house. It like turned into that. And so it was just a frustrating process across the board. But they were always proactive post meeting with us. And so they would send like immediately almost, they would send a follow-up email of all of the notes of what we talked about. They would send reminders of like, here's the next steps that I need from you. Remember at our next meeting, I'm going to need you to have picked out your doorknobs, picked out the paint color,
yeah,
the trim. Here's some options that we discussed. And they would actually send me links of options of things that we
love
had
it.
discussed. And so just being proactive on that, like really helped me remember what we talked about. Cause again, it is an overwhelming process. And if we're sitting there talking in person, I'm not like feverishly taking notes at this. It's like, again, the last thing I want to do at 5 p.m. on a Tuesday is go sit and talk to contractors
Yeah.
about the house that I didn't want to remodel. But they made it a really pleasant experience to just always try to be proactive. They always followed up. They always sent a confirmation email. They tried to provide examples. They would explain to me if I didn't understand. I had to pick out like the, not the grate, but the in your shower, the drain thing that
Right.
we did like a wet shower tub where a
Yep.
tub was in the shower with us. And so we had to do something specific. And so I had to pick out the drain type with like the slant. And I was like, I don't know what any of this is. I have no idea. But they were really, really quick to explain things to me in a way that I would understand. And they didn't like make me feel bad that I didn't really know what they were talking about. And
Love
then
it.
the examples was really great. Like providing examples, was really helpful too.
I think not a lot of homeowners have an experience where they could just talk about like all the amazing things that a contractor did. So hearing that, contractors listening, just know that that you can make it right. Listen to everything
Yeah.
that Maggie just said and implement it into your day to day in your business. I guess, Maggie, I do want to be obviously respectful of the time that we have today, and I do want to wrap things up with some just personal growth things. I know that beyond the fact that you're the VP of Ops at Gym Launch and you support a massive team. beyond all those things, you're also a wife, but of course you're a mom. And I think that you talk about that a lot on your social media, and I'd love to see that something that you're very proud of. I guess, what does working with your husband actually look like? Because a lot of contractors that I've experienced, they're like, oh, my wife does this, or she does accounting or the back end or books or whatever the case is. What does that practically look like, and how does that affect your relationship inside the home?
Yeah, I love this question. We actually just did an event, a speaking event, with a company called Couplepreneurs, and we actually spoke on working in business with your spouse. And it's funny because a lot of people take it of like how you can have a really great marriage, and then like you should get your marriage set, and then if you want, like, go into business together. And not that we didn't have a bad marriage at all, but we often say like our relationship wouldn't be where it is today if we didn't get in business together.
Yeah.
And so we've used building 7 and 8 figure businesses as a way to actually build and strengthen our marriage. And the way that we did that, we've kind of broke it down of like, let's take the business principles that make successful businesses are almost the exact same principles you would use to have a really solid relationship. Like, you have to be good at communicating. You have to set clear expectations. You need to communicate your life vision together of like where you guys are trying to go. You
Yeah.
need to be able to, set goals for one another, hold each other accountable. Communication is probably like the biggest one. I think a lot of people just aren't very good at communicating with one another and like expressing their needs to one another. But we've actually we love working together. And it's actually really strengthened our relationship. And so clear division of roles is also the other really big one. And so we've had very clear division of roles of like, you're going to conquer this, I'm going to conquer this. But I think one of the biggest mistakes, and we made this mistake really early on, when we first started working together, because Kale opened up a gym with one of his buddies before we opened up our gym. And then when we opened up our gym, he kind of ran the gym first while I was still, bartending and stuff. And so when I came into the business, it was kind of just like, okay, do all these tasks. And so I think a lot, like what you had mentioned, it's like own payroll, own accounting, respond to these customers. And the mistake that we made really early on is Kale had this vision in his head of where he wanted to take the business and what he wanted to accomplish. And he didn't share that with me of like, here's where we're going to take the business. Here's my goals. Again, that planning process of like, here's our desired superior outcome. Here's the objectives for the year. And as soon as I knew that, I was like, cool, I can like crush this role because I know what we're working towards. And it wasn't just like mundane, like little tasks that I was like being given to do. And so I think setting that clear vision of like, here's where we're trying to go with the business, and we're in this together, and not just like, it's my business and you're helping me do things in the business. Like, this is our business together, and here's how we're both individually going to contribute to that vision together.
Yeah, that's massive. And it sounds like it's panned out too, because over the years, I can only imagine now that Kale's role has become CEO of the company and you become VP of Ops, clear communications, expectations has probably become infinitely more important than maybe where it was like 5 years ago, right?
Yeah, super important. And something I think a lot of people forget sometimes is like you go through seasons in life and in business, and sometimes you set expectations in one season. And I see this with employees too. Like, you set expectations for where the business is at today, and then you forget to reevaluate and change those expectations for where your business is at now.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's like running $1 million business is much different than running a $5 million business, which is much different than running a 10, 20, $30 million business. And so naturally you're going to have to adapt and grow and change. And a lot of people forget to do that, I think, in the relationship side too. Especially like as our kids have grown, like they've shifted into different seasons of being babies and diapers at daycare to now being in school to now playing sports. It's like every season's very different. And so it's so important to always communicate. And so we're not like super religious about this, but we try to every single week at least kind of reassess like the week ahead. Where do you need my support? How can I support you? What do we have upcoming? Do we need to change any of the expectations that we have? And then we really deep dive into it on a quarterly basis to make sure we're still aligned and we don't need something different from one another.
Yeah, Maggie, I think that you've said this now on a couple occasions during this podcast, and you use the phrase, we're not super religious about it, but we try and do our best. And I just want to highlight that because I think that in the social media world where like, everybody preaches about like, this is what a perfect relationship looks like, or this is what a perfect business looks like. I love, that your rawness and authenticity and just saying like, look, we do our best, we try, but at the end of the day, things are not going to always align the way that they need to. And so I sincerely appreciate that. And for everybody listening, just know that we're all people.
Yeah, we're all human. I don't. I always like don't let one hiccup just derail you from the whole week, the whole
Yeah,
month, the whole year. It's like the same thing with trying to get into a fitness workout or eating healthy. It's like don't let one bad day on the weekend
right,
destroy it for the rest of the month of progress and then
right.
restart. It's like just get back up and keep going.
Get back on the horse. I love it.
Yeah.
Obviously, your mentorship with people like Alex and Leila, that's something that would be like a hot question, hot topic to talk about. I'm just more so curious, just at maybe something that the audience hasn't heard as it relates to maybe your relationship with Leila. How have you modeled your behavior maybe after her as a leader, and kind of what have you taken away from working directly with her?
Yeah, a couple things. One, I think a lot of people sometimes go into like let's say job opportunities very similar to how this was. Like they would love to work with Alex and Layla, and I think I never viewed it as like, okay, how can I take away from her? And I viewed it as like, how can I take things off of her plate? And that's actually kind of
Wow.
how I evolved into the VP of operations role. Is I always just, and you can do this in any role, it doesn't matter who the person is. But the most successful people on our team and other people in other businesses that I've seen is that they've always tried to they do their job exceptionally well and they take things off of the plate of the person above them. And so I've always gone into it of what can I take off of her plate? And then from there I said, how does she do this? And how can I do it just like her? How could I do it better? Right. Cause she's focused at the time, running her and Alex being co-CEOs in the business. Like they're running lots of different areas that I'm not touching. But I'm like, how can I take the things that she is doing and how can I either do it just as good or even better? So that way she doesn't even have to ever worry about it ever again.
Yeah.
And so that's how I evolved more into like a full operations role is like, how can I take things off of her plate? The biggest thing I've probably learned from Leila is that she is so consistent. She does not let one bad interaction, like she could have just gotten off a terrible call that like went totally horrible. And then she'll get on a call with you and her attention and focus is like on you. She's not swayed by what just happened. Like her emotions are so consistent, whether it's good or bad. And I think I used to be I used to be more emotional. I don't say very emotional, but I used to be a little bit more emotional in like my interactions with people. And something that I've really tried to model and take after and learn from her is to just be consistent and be a rock for people. Because if you're super high and super low, different times, like your team's not going to want to come to you with things. They're going to think that you're not reliable.
Yeah.
And so that's something that I've really tried to model is just be very consistent with my emotions and like tell me bad information because that's how I'm going to grow. It's how the company's going to get better. Good information's cool too, but I'm like, give me the bad information and I'm not going to freak out or blow up or like I genuinely want to hear it and then we're going to figure out how we can solve it.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. Maggie, this has been an incredibly impactful episode. I feel like there are so many golden nuggets all throughout it that contractors, gym owners, service business owners alike can take away. And really, if you're not even a business owner, I feel like you could get a ton of value from this conversation. Maggie, I am eternally grateful. Thank you so much for joining the show. And before we get off today, any shout outs you want to give about gym launch or gymowners.com or maybe anything that you are working on currently?
Oh man, that's it put me on the spot there. I think not really like a specific shout out. I mean, for anyone who doesn't know Gym Launch or it's funny, our portfolio is called Gains. And so it's obviously Gym Launch Prestige, gymowners.com. And our whole mission is to help gym owners reach more people, change more lives, and build a wildly profitable business. So if you are a gym owner and you want us to help you, obviously we'd love to do that. So it's our mission on that side. What I'm currently working on right now, we are trying to scale and grow the CRM, so gymowners.com. We want to create a simple and intuitive software for our gym owners that they actually love using and they don't hate using. Most people hate their CRM. And so we want to create one that they absolutely love using. And so that is my current big focus is building out a team and a structure to support scaling and growing the software company.
Love it. Love it. And I can only imagine how many challenges come with that, but maybe we can revisit those challenges this time next year and see how
Yeah,
you're
that'd
doing
be great.
with
I already have so many learnings.
that. um, Thank you, everybody, for watching this episode of Unconventional Materials. If you want to connect with Maggie, I will drop her socials down below. And once again, if you want to learn a little bit more about Gym Launch, you can find all that information in the show notes and in the description of the video. Thank you so much once again, Maggie, and we'll talk to you guys soon. See ya.